So I was doing a lot of work for several government agencies along with private sector organizations. Um so that triggered the thought that I must do something for the society. Uh, so that is how the seed came into my head that I must do something for the society. When the idea for Agewell Foundation was identified, and the reason behind this was peculiar. All my childhood, everyone at home used to talk about the fact that it is only in Indian subcontinent where we look up to old people, where in our general day-to-day conversation, जुग जुग जियो, मेरी उम्र तुझे लग जाए, 100 साल जिएगा. It is in our nomenclature. Indians, but per se, when we are talking to a friend, invariably we'll end up saying, "Oh, I was thinking about you. You are going to live for 100 years."
Mm-hmm. Hello, Himanshu, and a very warm welcome to you on this interview. And thank you for taking out the time. I know how busy you are. Uh, for the benefit of my viewers, the reason I chose Himanshu is that I met him, I think, in the year 2005 or 6, and I was immediately taken in by his candor, by his frankness, and you know his knowledge about so many things. Okay, right. The more I got to know about him, the more I realized here is a man who's not like anybody else, and that's what I want to bring to you, because there are few people who have the courage to do something different. So, Himanshu, I'd like you to talk about your formative years. What did you get from there?
There is nothing extraordinary about my upbringing. Both my parents were Sanskrit professors in Ujjain.
Okay.
And if you have your parents who are into the field of education, then there is a constant pressure on you to perform better.
Mm-hmm.
In your class test, if you get 12 out of 15, then you are reprimanded. How come you lost 3 marks?
Yeah.
Whereas other kids, their parents would be very happy about the fact that their kid has got good marks.
And where did you spend your early years?
Ujjain, Madhya Pradesh. My parents were professors in Vikram University. Uh, so, though it was a household of Sanskrit professors, uh, both my parents were quite progressive and modern. My father was also a student of English literature and philosophy, uh, and their social circle was very, very different. Some of the biggest names in literature used to come and stay in our house. People like Mahadevi Verma or Neeraj or uh, all big names. So from the childhood, one was exposed to literature and ethos of society, and big discussions used to take place all the time.
And
So
anything
that
in particular that influenced you during those years?
one was only imbibing. Everything was like just filtering in. Plus, what happens is, like, particularly in Sanskrit language, larger number of students are private students. Like in post graduation courses, in the university, if you have say 15 students, there would be 50 more who are working somewhere and they are still doing this. So from December, January onwards, there would be a mela of students coming in. Guruji, ye bata do, wo bata do, whatever. And my father's this thing was that anybody coming to the door should not be returned without whatever that they are asking for. So from December onwards till March, April examination time, almost every day there used to be classes. My father was an expert of Vedic Shastra.
Okay.
Now, Vedic Shastra is something which doesn't change. It remains the same. So the course remains the same. So year after year after year, the class was on, and one had to perforce listen to whatever was being taught. So indirectly, one learned a lot about the scriptures, about Vedic Shastra, about so many different things. Uh, then there was a whole group of leftists who used to come discuss things and so on. So it was a different kind of upbringing. So that was the beginning, and competition was something which was like ingrained, in the sense that you have to do better. Whatever that you are doing, you have to do better. तो मास्टर के घर में पैदा हुए, डंडा मार मार के एमबीए करा दिया गया. Way back in 77, I completed my MBA, which was again, like at that point of time, MBA was nothing. It probably it was a little less than what kids study nowadays in BCom. Uh, because there were no computers, there was no nothing. When in my final year of post graduation, we were taken to the university office where there was a huge hall and there was a truck like structure. We were told that this is a computer which will process,
IB
yeah,
1401.
which will process the examination results. So that was the beginning. But then I always wanted to get out of that milieu of small city. Uh, so as soon as I completed my MBA, I wanted to come to Delhi and somehow persuaded my parents to send me to Delhi. Uh, Initially, I came here to join National School of Drama.
Oh, very nice.
But then my parents then insisted, मास्टर के लड़के हो, ड्रामा करके झोला लटका के कहाँ से रोटी खाओगे? So I was made to join as an article clerk with a chartered accountant firm.
Oh, okay.
Now that was like I was all of 18, and chartered accountant firm coming from Ujjain, never studied English language as such. Uh, Whatever little I knew, I started stammering virtually, like literally. My name is Himanshu, like that. And because the rest of the article clerks were all from Delhi,
Okay. But you were not having any accounts background.
I had done my BCom, and after that, I had done my
Okay.
MBA.
Okay.
And in between, before I started doing MBA, I had like insisted, and I wanted to come to Delhi, and I had come here. So I was then plugged back from here, made to complete my post graduation, and then I came back to Delhi. And then I joined an advertising agency. I got a job in Calcutta. So I went to Calcutta, worked there for about 2 years, came back to Delhi.
So you were a copywriter, I believe.
I started off as an account executive,
Okay.
but then account executive is neither here nor there. You listen to all the galis from the creative department and from the client as well. You are a shuttlecock being flicked around. With my background of literature and my grip on Sanskrit and Hindi, I got this opportunity to do some translation work. So after spending about 6-7 years as account, I was finally account supervisor with Frank Morris, and which used to be a big agency then. Uh, I shifted tracks and joined Tarasena, which now is known as McCann, uh, as a Hindi copywriter. This was way back in '85. Now, those days there were nobody in the horizon who was a Hindi writer, stamped Hindi copywriter. Uh, so it worked. It worked very well, and I started getting offers from almost every advertising agency to do some freelancing work for them. I resisted because of my background, educated parents, and so on. So, moonlighting was something which was looked down upon. But in 87, I left the job and became independent. And I started doing copywriting.
That was a very bold step, don't you think?
Yeah, it was. It was indeed, because I was already married. I had a kid, house rent, day to day expenses. But then the offers were endless. And when I left the job, I was earning something like 5,500 rupees per month as salary. But within the first month, I earned about a lakh of rupees.
Oh, wow.
Because everybody wanted a Hindi copywriter, and there were no Hindi till only commercial Doordarshan came, when advertisements on Doordarshan started, which was a turning point, because it used to cost almost about 3 lakhs for a 30-second spot. Usually, advertisers would advertise in 10 seconds, 20 seconds.
Mhm.
So, with that kind of money, every comma, full stop, everything was important. So, I got bigger chances, and I became a copywriter. As a copywriter, I got many opportunities to work for several government campaigns. Things like
Okay.
पौधा दूर दूर लगाओ बच्चे देर से पैदा करो types.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Uh, so I was doing a lot of work for several government agencies along with private sector organizations. Uh, so that triggered the thought that I must do something for the society. Uh, so that is how the seed came into my head that I must do something for the society. And I lost my mother when I was 38.
Okay.
So she was a professor in the university. She came back one evening in the night. She passed away in her sleep only. That was a bit of a shock. So then I decided that I am not going to slog all my life. I'll stop working at 40 and I'll only do social work. So the day I turned 40, I stopped working. There were a number of people who were working under me in my setup. Um, Asked all of them to get lost. Just kept one accountant to manage the financial part and went independent completely. Uh, which is when the idea for Agewell Foundation was identified. And the reason behind this was peculiar. All my childhood, everyone at home used to talk about the fact that it is only in Indian subcontinent where we look up to old people,
True.
where in our general day-to-day conversation, जुग जुग जियो, मेरी उम्र तुझे लग जाए, 100 साल जिएगा. It is in our nomenclature. Indians, but per se, when we are talking to a friend, invariably we'll end up saying, "Oh, I was thinking about you. You are going to live for 100 years."
Mm-hmm.
Now, this blessing of live for 100 years, yeah, juk juk jio, doesn't exist anywhere else in the world. You go through entire Shakespeare, go through any German, Spanish, Russian, any literature. There is no expression like "be a centurion."
Mm-hmm. True.
It is always "May God bless you."
Yeah, that's it.
So God may bless you with whatever God wants to bless you with. Here we become God ourselves. And we are always talking about long age, long age, long age. But within the four walls of our household, we reject old people. We find them in the way.
Mm.
Uh, the families where like parents are living together, but then children don't speak to them. For days to come, they don't speak to them. Most old people in the morning would go out for a morning walk with a doodh ka dole, come back only by about 9, 9:30 by the time the younger generation has gone out to work,
Mm.
because they are always considered to be in the way. And that is how the concept for Agewell Foundation came up. It was essentially to bridge the gap between generations.
There's a
And
name.
that is, yeah, so Agewell, from the first breath, to the last, every human being should age well. That is the basic concept. And the subtext to this is, let us bridge the gap between generations. Now, how do we do that? By sensitizing people. Young people, unfortunately, in our country, there is no opportunity to sensitize them about old people. Like every human child would have at least four older people in his or her life. Two grandparents father's side, two grandparents mother's side. Even if one or two are not available, still one, two, or in the neighborhood or some relative. So some old people are there when a child is born. As the child grows, in today's scenario, at the age of 12, 13, they consider their children, their parents, a 12, 13-year-old, believes that his or her parents are obsolete.
Oh, yes. Anybody above the age of 40, I think, is considered.
Yeah, so 12-year-old, from the age of 12 year, their only communication with their parents is chill. I know what I'm doing. You don't know. You are obsolete. You have no idea what is happening in the world. And it may be true also to a certain extent. But the communication is not there. The only course in our country is the curriculum is determined by NCRT books. In the entire NCRT structure, there is not a single chapter from class 1 to class 12 on aging. Nobody is ever taught anything about aging. Way back in 1880, when the Britishers introduced formal education in our country, it was believed that India is a agrarian society. So every child, whichever part of the country the child is in, would have seen a cow. So they introduced this thing about write an essay on cow. And I am sure each one of us, including you, would have written an essay on cow in class 3, 4, some point of time.
Yeah, true.
Now, that was because it is about language comprehension and expression. You have seen something, so describe. So my point is, why not old person? Everybody has seen an old person. The problem is we don't sensitize our children about old people. So they don't know anything about old age. So they don't empathize with old people. And everyone wants to live for as long as possible. Like if we play a game between you and me right now, and I say, okay, Sukhdeepak ji, I have the power. Tell me how long you want to live. So you will say maybe another 25 years, 30 years, whatever. Okay, turn the time. 30 years are over. I turn up. You're sitting on a chair or bed or whatever, and I say, okay, time up. You said 30 years, let's go. Will you just get up and you would be willing? Will you be willing to die at that very moment? No. You will let my son come, let my daughter-in-law come, let my grandchild is getting married, or now I have started taking homeopathy, or I am doing this, that, I'm feeling better. Why should I die right now? Everyone wants to live for as long as possible. Now, then everyone should be prepared for that old age. And as a society, we don't prepare anyone for old age. So that is what Agewell is all about. That is what we try to do.
Can you tell us specifically what does Agewell do?
In Agewell 1, we have a network of about 80,000 volunteers.
Okay.
These volunteers spread across every single district in the country.
Okay.
Currently, we are present in about 768 districts.
Okay.
These volunteers then try and extend a helping hand to old people who need any kind of assistance.
Like they will go to their homes and speak
Go to
with
their
them.
homes, understand whatever their problem is, and hold their hand in finding a solution The volunteer is not the solution. The volunteer is only there to assist old people to find a solution.
Okay.
One. Two, the presence of such a large number of volunteers gives a sense of satisfaction to old people that if ever I am in need, I can go to them. So that is the structure, and that's a helpline, wherein we currently interact with more than 25,000 old people on a daily basis.
Okay. So how do you reach out to see the more
Uh,
the number of old people know about you?
one, it is word of mouth.
Okay.
Two, the local newspapers carry details about these volunteers.
Okay.
The local authorities largely also know about the presence of these volunteers. Whenever they come across any old person who is in need for any kind of assistance, they direct them.
Okay.
And particularly amongst the old people in a particular strata of society, word of mouth works.
Okay.
Such and such help is available. Now, when we had started, we believed that it is old people who would come to us mostly.
Mm-hmm.
Now there is a very large number of young people
Mm-hmm.
who come to us in addition to these 25,000 old people. Almost about 40 to 50,000 younger people contact us every day, because young people find it very, very difficult to interact with old people.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of love, there's a lot of care, there's a lot of regard in the mind of young people, and very large number of them are educated also. Uh, but they don't really know how to deal with old people because they were never taught about it. They were never sensitized about it. People come up with inane problems like, my father looks irritated to me all the time. What do I do? We ask him, okay, what is the level of interaction with your father? No, I hardly speak to him. I'm reserved. Like in front of my father, there is hardly any communication. Now, neither the father nor the kid were ever told or taught or sensitized that there should be interaction between these two. My mother looks depressed. She hardly eats anything. So on and so forth. So these are interpersonal conflicts, which as educated society, each one of us must take on the responsibility to bring in this sensitization. Now you can't sensitize a 40-year-old person. The process of sensitization starts from young age.
Mm-hmm.
So this is one part of our work, wherein we try and assist and find solutions locally. While interacting with such a large number of old people, we realize that a new phenomena has come up now. Now, what happens is, now living up to about 80, 90 is quite common.
Yeah.
It was only till about 10, 15 years back, if someone passed away and you politely inquire how old was the person, and if you were told 65, then the reaction used to be fine. Like 60, you retire at 60, you take your pension for 4, 5 years and die. That's the time when everyone dies. But today, if someone passes off at 65, our first reaction is, what happened? Was the
Mm-hmm.
person diabetic? Was it a heart attack? Like, nobody dies at 65.
Yeah, that's true.
So now there are economic uh, impact impacts because of this. Now, if I am going to die at 65, then invariably, as human beings, we fall sick a year or two before passing away, or our health deteriorates before that. If I am 62, 63, 64, my children at that point of time would be 25 to 35. They will have the confidence to beg, borrow, steal, and look after my health.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm going to die at 90, invariably I'll fall sick in my 80s. That time my children would be 55, 60 themselves. They would rather save money for their own daughter's marriage, their own home loan, their own security for old age. They are not going to spend money for me. And if they are not spending money for me or they are not looking after me, they won't make eye contact. They won't meet me. I get that much more isolated. This is a fact. Now compare it with some other realities of life. If I retire at 60, most Indian, why most Indian? All over the world, there is a age gap between 2 3 years to up to about 10 12 years between husband and wife. So if I am 60 and retire, my wife could be in her early 50s. If I am going to live for 30 more years, then 30 years for myself, almost 40 years for my wife. Women outlive men by 4 5 years. So 45 years. Now, whatever amount of money that I have earned, saved, invested, or even inherited, that money is not going to last me for 45 years. Money is not that elastic. So, a second job is a must. Now, retiring and sitting at home is no more an option. And most Indians don't get any pension. Only about 20-22% people in our society get pension.
What does Agewell do about this?
Yeah, so we started an employment exchange, a free service, wherein we assist retired people in getting jobs. We train them, we teach them about computers, digital literacy, everything. And then we assist them in getting jobs. It's not a very hugely successful program. We have placed about 200,000 people in jobs so far.
That's not successful. I mean, it's amazing.
Considering we have about 150 million old people in our country, 157 million actually.
These are all rural as well as urban people?
Yeah, total population of old people in our country is currently 157. Out of them, 35% are loaded. They have lots of money. Remaining 65% have nothing, absolutely nothing. No income, no nothing. So we started this program, and we fail in it to a certain extent because we as a social sector organization do not have that finish which is required to communicate with large marketing organizations. Like, hypothetically speaking, say Philips. How many branches would how many franchisees would Philips have in our country? Almost about 100,000.
Yep.
Every village, every city, everywhere there would be a Philips showroom. Now, when you enter into a franchisee agreement, you specify that you have to have this kind of board, this much of stock, this kind of design in your showroom. In the same breath, if they add one line, you will employ one old person. Be it a peon, be it a chaprasi, be it a safai wala, be it a accountant, be it an assistant, be it whatever. One old person you have to employ. In one go, you create 100,000 jobs. And there are something like 1,400 plus national marketing organizations in our country. Look at Samsung, Sony, like endless. Just one old person in every franchisee can create jobs for millions of old people. We have
So
not
have you approached any of these organizations?
we have, but then beyond a point, we don't have the finish and the inertia to go after them. The kind of
What's the kind of response you get?
communication skill. Going beyond a brand manager who is not the decision maker becomes very difficult, and it's very time consuming, and it's not something that they are very focused on. So we have not been very successful in that. So we thought of an alternate, and we started advocating that once you retire, wherever you live, there would be certain number of households in the vicinity. And in India, like rest of the world, larger number of women have started working.
Yeah.
So there are many families, particularly in urban, semi-urban areas, where husband and wife both go out to work. If both of them are going out to work, and if you have a young child at home, there is no one at home to help the child even complete homework.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So these old people, retired people, could become a tutor. And they will not only teach, they will also bring in certain value, add certain values to the young child's mind. Currently, about 500,000 people are working as tutors across the country under this program. We want to spread it more, but we are still struggling. So it is very, very, very important today. And through you, I appeal to everybody who's listening to this. You come across any old person, or if you are an old person yourself, you don't have to do much. Textbooks up till about class 7 or 8, there's nothing technical in it. Just go through the textbooks and become a tutor. In cities like Delhi or big cities, you get up to about 1,400 rupees per hour. Even in smaller cities, you get 200-300 rupees per hour. And if you teach 3-4 children every day, you could earn good amount of money, and you can continue to do this till the time your body and mind allows you to do this. So till about 75, 77, almost 80, one can do this and continue to earn money. And money is very, very, very important. Depending on your children for money is the worst possible thing that can happen.
Yeah, so true.
When I was a kid, somebody giving me 11 rupees was like a lottery. Today, if your grandchild comes and you try and hand over 11 bucks, they'll just throw it back. Nothing starts before 201 or 501 rupees. Even a chocolate costs 200 bucks today. So for old people, it is very important to continue to earn and remain financially independent till the time they can. So this is the second thing. The third that we do is we are heavily into research on issues concerning old people. We have so far conducted about 55 national research reports. It is easy for us because we have a huge number of, like, a very large network of volunteers. We develop a questionnaire, share it with them, and they help us complete the forms. So within a fortnight, we would have a few 100,000 forms. Compile them, process them, and a report is ready. And because we have special consultative status with United Nations since 2011, most of our research reports are available on UN websites. And therefore, they have become a point of reference internationally for policymakers to gain information from there. World over, this problem is now coming up in a big way because the number of older people is increasing. 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, children were born continuously. Now that women have started working, the supply line is shrinking. So there are lesser number of children and more. Like in India alone, about 17,000 people turn 60 every single day.
Every day?
Every day. So it's like popcorns. Every day, 17,000 people are being added to the population of old people in India, which is the fastest in the world. Nowhere else, no other country in the world has this kind of growth. We are a little behind China right now in terms of number of old people. In another 2 years or so, we will cross China. And
If anybody,
for years to come, India would have the largest number of older people.
that means if anybody wants to do anything for older people, they should get in touch with Agewell Foundation.
They should do whatever that they can on their own. If they need any guidance, if they need any assistance, come to us. We would have n number of things to share with you. But then being responsible towards old people is like being responsible for yourself. One day we all are going to get old. We are already old in a way.
Yeah, true. Great. So that's just. So tell me more about what else does the Agewell Foundation do, Himanshu?
See, we distribute wheelchairs amongst the destitute and needy old people who are bedridden. We also provide 60 adult diapers per month to a very large number of old people who are bedridden. Because without an adult diaper, living in your own filth, that's the most inhuman thing that any human being has to go through. We also distribute a food ration packet, which is a monthly food ration packet costing about 1250 rupees, which covers meal requirements for one old person. We distribute large number of them amongst a very large number of old people living in the slums. Uh, we also provide winter kits, uh, everyday requirement kits like a towel, kurta pajama, a sari, those kind of things.
How do you identify and reach such people who need these things?
See, currently we are doing this only in Delhi NCR region because doing anywhere else is logistically not practical for us. Uh, we have n number of students who come in as interns from some of the best institutes in and around Delhi. We send them into the slums. They go into slums, visit jhuggi to jhuggi, locate these old people who are in need, make a video, take a photograph, and collect their Aadhaar card or voter ID card. That becomes the basis for our identification. Currently, we are giving about 4,500 old people 60 adult diapers every week, and almost about 5,000 people that meal ration packet every month. We distribute about 1,000 odd wheelchairs every month. So it's a big outlay, and it is an endless requirement.
So tell me, Himanshu, are you getting any support from any of the Rotary clubs? Because we do support a lot
Not
of
so
people.
far. Not so far. Uh, my hands are tied in the sense I don't get the time. One, two, I don't have that kind of temperament to go and ask for funds. So we don't really go out asking for funds. Organizations who locate us, who read about us in the media or wherever, they come forward and we associate with them, and we follow whatever. We tailor programs as per whatever the requirement is. Uh, but going and asking for something doesn't set right with me.
I'll just stop the recording. Before we close this interview, Himanshu, is there anything else you would like to say to people?
Share a smile. Share a smile with your parents as many times as you can. Be there for them. And family is important because in this whole universe, it is only the parents who have the biggest care and love for you. Don't ignore them.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Himanshu.
Most welcome.
Thank you for the time. And I am, again, impressed by the, depth of the work that you are doing. And I'd certainly like to become a part of it in some way. So I'll get in touch with you about that. So
You're
thank you
most
very
welcome.
much.